Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for coming back and hanging out with us tonight. If you're with us for the first time tonight and you're asking yourself, what is CyberGangsters CyberSecurity? My name is Jaime Pina. I have a guest with me here onto the side. His name is Danielle Whitaker. Daniel, do you go by Danielle Whitaker Jr. or Daniel Whitaker? What do most people
Junior.
address? Junior. Okay, I just want
Yeah,
to make sure.
yeah,
My dad was a junior. Um,
sure.
But what we do here is the goal is we talk about cybersecurity. So ideally, we want to help learners who are wanting to get into the field. This is a resource for them to just kind of get information about that. And so we normally focus on PCI, but lately we're kind of branching out and seeing what other areas of cybersecurity that we can learn from, because I think that there's plenty out there. And we also want to hear from people who kind of who've went through the journey and are on the other side, if that makes sense. And so I have professionals from all sorts of walk of life, and tonight is no different. Tonight I am joined by Danielle Whitaker Jr., and he is going to share with us his journey into cybersecurity. But before we get to that, Daniel, how's your week been so far?
My week's been great. We've gotten some great news. We're expecting our second in February, and it's a boy. So
Get out of
super,
here.
super news
Congratulations,
for the
man.
family. Thank you, thank
That's
you. So yeah,
awesome.
it's been an amazing week thus far.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Goodness. Is your first boy or girl?
Girl, she'll
Are
be
they
2 in
stair
November.
stepped
She'll be 2, and he'll be
in
coming in
February?
February.
Right. Okay,
So
that's a good. I
yeah,
Ours are 2 years apart, so I like
nice.
that 2-3 year span right there, so that they're still
Yeah,
pretty close together, right? So
absolutely, absolutely.
congratulations, man.
Thank you,
That's
thank you.
pretty awesome. Um, so one of the things that I've been wanting to do, Daniel, is I am adding some content, whether it be through just posts on LinkedIn. I'll be doing a video this weekend, but I'm doing this, it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? So we're going to take a little trip on a road trip right here to the side, and I want to make sure that I can use my platform not only to encourage learners, but also contribute to Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so I thought it might be a
Yeah,
good idea here at the beginning if we can kind of talk just a little bit about something that we can just give to our viewers, some things they can think about, kind of chew on it and think, what they could do in their homes and stuff. And so
sure,
I'm going to
sure.
say, I want you to think about something because I kind of sprung this on you just a minute ago. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I think are very important is I'm always about the children, right? I have two daughters myself, so I'm always thinking about ways to protect them. And although they are just now, one of them is about to start getting into social media. They haven't had social media prior to this. Both are teens. I deliberately waited for both of my teens to get on social media. I don't know if many people know this, but in the terms of service for all social media, 13 is a minimum age that it has before you can have an account for, Facebook, X, or formerly Twitter, um,
Mhm.
Instagram, all that stuff. And so
Yeah,
even though they say 13 is their minimum age, that is still too young in my mind, right? And
for
so
the
I think,
content being showed. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And even just the way that they or not perceive, but the way that their brain reacts to those dopamine hits, they're unnatural
Absolutely.
dopamine hits. And so I
Sure.
think my piece, what I want to say is I want to encourage you professionals out there watching, and those learners also, is in your home, is to rein that stuff in, like rein it in. Our children do not need to have access to social media, but there will be a time where they will need to have access to it. And it's good to
Sure.
teach them as a parent how to manage that, right? Many of us didn't have internet growing up so that we could know how to navigate that. We kind of
Yeah,
learned as adults.
absolutely.
They
Yeah.
they are living it from beginning to
Living it.
end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that is the piece I want to give for Cybersecurity Awareness Month: is
Sure.
be deliberately involved in your child's um, social media knowledge and life. Okay, you
Sure.
should know the passwords to their social media accounts also. None of that
Sure.
secret stuff in my house, but that's what I impart to you. Daniel, do you have something you want to that you
Sure.
feel equally about?
I'll piggyback off of that. Something a little more practical, right? As you have a router in your house, one, you should be doing firmware updates on your routers, right? Don't leave it with old firmware and leave it vulnerable to old exploited threats and vulnerabilities. Second, use it to its function. Start filtering on some of that content, limiting some of the amount of activity tied to particular social media networks. That way, you're not so much um, stopping your children from using it, but you're more so controlling how much of it they get to use.
That's true. Yes. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Everyone. So again, we're here because many of us are going through and trying to get somewhere, right? We've made a choice in life and we want to better ourselves for a myriad of reasons that exist. Okay. I always trip out when I meet either new or professionals that are either have been in the field for a little bit, right? Like a year or a little bit around there. Because Daniel, you kind of fall into this category. And what I like to tell everyone is like, if you are just now starting your journey or you're midway in your journey, like I want you all to look at Daniel tonight and I want you to see that this is a potential future for you. Like your journey can have this light at the end of the tunnel and it can meet a fruition that's there because there are others who are doing it. And Daniel, you are an example of that. You and I have met and we've talked about this in the past. And so I appreciate you coming on the CyberGangsters CyberSecurity tonight
Absolutely.
and telling us a little bit about your journey. So with that being
Absolutely.
said, let's hop on the train, man.
Sure.
Let's start off with, why don't you tell us a little bit about your past?
Sure. Sure. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Lived there till Hurricane Katrina. We'll go all the way back because, uh, yeah. Let me start over. Actually,
That's all
before
right.
I'm anything, my past. I'm a child of God. My
Amen.
faith is at the foundation of who I am. So, I like to preface with that, and I think I'm in this position that I am today due to that curation of faith to begin with. So, um, from New Orleans, Louisiana, moved to Texas when I was 10. Played football all my life. Was blessed enough to get a scholarship opportunity to play college football, Bismarck, North Dakota. Uh, went to school, got my degree, played, started all my years in college, had my fair share of injuries, grew a lot. I was far away from the environment I grew up in. So naturally, that solitude allowed me to grow better and then build on that faith that I previously mentioned. Um, got my first job after college. I stayed. So my first job. The story with that is I didn't know what my plan was after college. I just kind of always heard people say, "Well, you got to go to college. You got to go to college."
Right.
And so I went, and I thought, well, once you go, people will be kicking down your door to give you a job because you went. Um, and I graduated in 2017, so that wasn't that long ago. And now that I'm here, it's like you were completely naive to think that people were going to just give you a job because you have a degree. Um, so I took a job interview in small town North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
They had sent the posting to one of our professors. He posted it in the class, and everyone were like, "Yeah, we're not moving to this small town." The local people from the state were like, "Yeah, no one's gonna move there for a job." So I was like, "Well, at least I beat out the competition within the room." So I said, "Well,
Okay.
let me just get interview experience." And so I applied and got an interview. I thought I bombed it. Uh, Lo and behold, they offered me. Before this, I had an internship at Bobcat, the manufacturing company, for
Oh,
about a year. So that was a really good foundation for me, a practical foundation outside of school. I wasn't very studious. I did enough as a student to play football. If they said the requirement to play football was make A's, I would have made A's. But that wasn't the requirement. So I did what I had to do to be a football player so I could stay in school to finish. And it was the
what was your
same way in
degree
high
in?
school. My degree was in IT management.
Okay.
and I minored in business. But yeah, I didn't spend much time studying as a student in any part of my career up until that point. I just kind of went to class, remember what I needed to remember,
Mm-hmm.
um, and made mediocre average grades while in college. My mom required B's and A's in high school to play football, so that's what I got. Um, so I wasn't very studious or anything like that coming out of college. So I took the interview, um, get the job. They offered me the job, town of 1,300 people. I go back to the school. Almost nobody told me to take this job. It wasn't a single person who was like, "Oh, that's an amazing opportunity." They were always like, "What are you gonna do in this small town, North Dakota, being this young black man? Aren't you afraid to go to this place? Aren't you concerned? Aren't you all of these fears or worries that other people had?" Back to the faith again. I was like, it was very similar to moving to Bismarck. I didn't know where Bismarck, North Dakota was coming from Houston, Texas. I had no clue. And that same just God being with me, I moved, and it was the best decision I could have made in that at that moment in time in my life. It was the best first job. I mean, it gave me so much experience across the IT in its different sectors that it's in. I got to work in almost every business sector: manufacturing, agriculture, education, finance, communications, almost every sector, um, based just being with that company. And so with them, I started out as a network assistant.
Okay.
They bring me on. I mentioned that I wasn't very studious. That's a very important part in this because when I get there, now I have to learn how to um, attack my profession the way I was attacking football, right? So everything up until that point was let me do what I got to do to be the best football player I can be. So then I had to like transition that, and this was like a turning point for me early on. We were a managed service provider and a telco. So our territories that we provided telecommunication services and internet, cable, telephone. We also provided managed services to those businesses as well.
Right.
So it was killing two birds with one stone. I mean, I got to see it from the all the way from the back end all the way to the front end. The whole layer, the whole stack of IT I got experience with. So in that, it's a lot to learn just to be useful. And right away, probably a month or so, we were in a team meeting. Our manager had asked how my training was going, and one of the guys, I don't know if he was taking a shot at me or what, but he said, "Man, if you want to," he was speaking openly, but
Mm-hmm.
he was talking directly to me. He was like, um, this stuff takes like you have to put in time and effort to be good at this stuff. Like you got to go home, study it, learn it. Like you got to like he's not just gonna get it by being here at work, right? He has to. It's more effort. And I said in that moment, I just said, bet you don't have to say no less. And ever since then, um, I've adopted this growth mindset. That same energy I put into football, I've figured out a way to put that into my professional career now,
Nice.
and that triggered it for me. So I went from network assistant to network analyst to managed service supervisor to cybersecurity analyst. Um, all while I'm seeing all kind of technology. I would definitely say I have a technical background.
Yeah.
Um, and I was with that company for almost 5 years, almost 6 years. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, almost 6 years in all of those different roles. I always deployed servers in that time. I
Okay.
always deployed firewalls in that time. So I have my hands in stuff in the technical side of things that entire time. And
Hold on real quick.
I had
Let
yeah, go
me
ahead, go ahead,
no worries.
jump in.
All right. So you graduated and then you graduated in Houston,
High
right?
school, correct.
High school. Okay, you graduated high school in Houston, and then you went and you applied for work, and you got a job in North Dakota of all places.
Well, I went to college in North Dakota.
Oh,
That's where I got
okay,
I went to college in North Dakota, in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I applied for a job in North Dakota.
and that was with Bobcat.
That was that was after Bobcat. So I
Okay,
had my internship with Bobcat going into my last fall of school. I graduated in the spring. So in 2016, I worked for Bobcat and did my
okay,
internship with them. Um, 2017, I want to say it was February, this job posting happened. And then I applied for the job. I actually wasn't done with school yet. I'm still in school at this point. So I end up actually taking the job, and all my professors, this is God again, back to my faith. All my professors said finish online. Like, don't worry about, hey, I got a job. They were like, oh, cool. Go ahead and finish all your classes online. So I got my job without having my degree yet. I hadn't even finished it yet.
right.
Um, I had got a new car at that time. I had a 93 Cadillac. The driver's side door wasn't working.
You were
It
in the
was,
drive-through, opening the door, ordering your food with the door
yeah.
open instead of the window down,
No,
huh?
not even that. I wasn't in the drive-through period. I would have to get out because the door wouldn't open.
Oh
So
man,
I'm getting in from the passenger side, but
yeah,
it was a 93 Cadillac, so I had the fold up middle, so you could just slide over. It's not like I had to climb over the middle console. Um, but I needed that car. That car saved me so many times. Uh, it was a 93 Cadillac, but it felt like a 2020 Cadillac when I
yeah.
was driving it.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
So
So,
yeah, my mom got me a new car because I didn't even take my car to the interview. So the small town was 2.5 hours away from Bismarck. So I wasn't even close to the community that I was kind of still new to just 5 years earlier, right? So 2.5 hours away, I had to take one of my roommate's cars to the interview because I was afraid my Cadillac wasn't going to make it. It's the middle of winter in North Dakota.
oh
It's
yeah,
probably the toughest winter on in North America, I would imagine, uh, because it's super extreme. So it gets the coldest and the hottest. North Dakota is the central point of North America. Just a fun
great.
fact. So yeah, probably one of the toughest winters in North America. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not driving this Cadillac there. So my mom got me a new car for my graduation gift.
Oh,
My
bless you,
professors told
mama.
me I could absolutely. My professors told me go ahead and finish your classes online. The company found me somewhere to stay because, as you can imagine, in small town North Dakota, housing opportunities uh, are scarce. So
Yeah,
there's not a lot of turnover.
right.
Um, so they found me somewhere to stay, and I moved without ever seeing the town, without ever seeing the place I was living. I up and moved.
You moved, so no experience in the community, no connection in the community, no family, no nothing, just a brand new job offer, and you go ahead and decide. You'd say yes, deciding to move there without any experience in the community.
None. Back to the
Damn.
faith again.
Okay. Okay.
And what I pointed, how I justified it. Well, one, what they were paying me was more than what my mom raised me and my siblings on. And at that
Hmm.
time, it was only 40 some thousand dollars. But when I was growing up, my mom didn't make 40 some thousand dollars, and we lived a pretty comfortable life. So I figured, hey, at 23, you can make 40 some thousand dollars. But that was it. I thought I had like hit
You
the
hit the
top of the
you hit the
top. That was
Sizzler. You were at Sizzler, man. Whenever
exactly.
you wanted to go.
Exactly. And I think that's what contributed to some of that I guess the lack of urgency in my effort and my push to be the absolute best in my role, right? I
Hmm.
mentioned the guy kind of calling me out in the meeting, but at that point I thought
You
I got
thought
a
you were on
job.
the top, like you said a
Yeah,
second ago.
I
You
thought I
you
was on
thought
the
you
top.
did.
Yeah. So yeah, I took the job without ever. So the company is actually on the outskirt of town. It's the first building to town. It's like 2 miles or so before you actually get to town. So
Okay.
when I did my interview, I never went into town. I just went to the
Oh,
company
you went
building,
to the
did the
company
interview,
and
and
you were
turned back around. Um, Moved with no understanding idea of what it was going to be like. I just knew that the opportunity that had presented itself, who am I to waste it, right? Because like I said, I wanted a job. I thought you go to school to get a job. Okay,
Yeah,
so here's someone offering you a job. Why wouldn't you take it? And
sure.
my options at that time are to go back home and live at home and then look for a job in Texas. That was my option. So it's like, why
Yeah,
would you pass up a job here? Like, let's just make sense. Why would you pass up a job here, regardless of where it's at, right? Um, to possibly not get a job when you go back home. And I think that's a big part of my story, just the movement on not seeing everything. I like to compare sometimes like in if you ever driven in a snowstorm or super bad rainy weather, the only thing the way you know you're on the road is to see the tail lights of the car in front of you.
yeah,
That's how you kind of know you're going in the right direction. And every
right.
now and then you hit a spot in the road where the weather clears up or whether you're in a valley and you can see more of the road and can see more ahead of you. But most of the time, you only could see what's in front of you. So for me, all I could see in front of me was this opportunity. There wasn't some super big picture to, uh, okay, maybe if I don't do this, I could go here, I could go here. All I saw was that, like, okay, this is where I am. Let's put one foot in front of the other. Let's take this opportunity. And at a minimum, right? At a minimum, gain experience and say you got a job. Like, let's build a resume if we don't do anything else. Uh, the company didn't expect me to stay there almost 6 years. It was like this young black guy from Houston, Texas, moving to Ellendale, North Dakota. If we could kill him for a year or two, that's a win. Um, it was the best first job I could have had. It
Sounds
was
like
the
it.
best first job I could have had. I worked with great people, but ultimately, we both sides knew that I wouldn't be there forever, right? And so
Hmm.
then I got to a position where I had got some experience, some practical experience in the cybersecurity space. I
At
had my
Bobcat.
strong technical Bobcat and with the company. I had my um, technical background with the company. So now I'm feeling like I've outgrown per se. I've
Hmm.
reached my cap with this particular company. Um, so I
Which is
started
crazy,
looking
right?
for
Because most tech jobs people traditionally stay at 2 years has been the average time for the last 15 years at least. For the last 15 years, the average turnaround time in a tech job is 2 years. Not meaning that people, it's no bearing on that other than the fact that people have the opportunity to make more money every 2 years for
yeah.
whatever reasons that are there. So you
And
being
I
there 6 years, yeah.
and sometimes you do yourself a disservice, right? Because it honestly, man, I didn't even know I could make six figures and have a regular job until like 2021. I had zero clue that you can be this successful without being some type of entrepreneur, entertainer in that type of realm to have high six-figure value and have a job. You work for someone else. Um, so that's how like super naive and unexperienced, unknowing I was of the
Hmm.
world. So then once I started seeing that, and what it was, I I I met some individuals who were in the space doing extremely well, and they're like, "Bro, you based on what you're saying you do, and based on like you should be in this type of tax bracket for lack of better terms. You should be making this type of money with the type of work and experience that you have. What are you waiting on?" And what it did, what needed to happen for me was I needed
Hmm.
to believe that. I needed to then go ahead and figure out, okay, what are my pros? What are the things I'm good at? Figure out how to sell myself. And not so much sell myself, tell my story and show the value that I bring. So where
Hmm.
I don't have to say, okay, I'm worth this much. You identify that for yourself based on what I'm telling you, and what I'm telling you is worth that much, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I started to adopt that. I started getting active on LinkedIn, started looking for updating my resume. Once I updated my resume, immediately I started getting hits just due to the plethora of in that short period of time, the amount of different technologies I got to touch and focus on. I had a few certifications. I let them expire. I'm I'm up in the air on search. Study the content if you're ready for. If you want to take the test, take the test. But it doesn't get you a job.
Mm-mm.
It's just something to attract, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Real quick,
understanding
so
that,
sorry, because these two things that you just mentioned, these two topics that you just mentioned, I feel like there is some strong gravity about those things. So everyone. So the first piece is, for lack of being able to say exactly how you said it, Daniel, but being confident about yourself, like that was some that had this um like that was like oh, not camel that broke the back, or the straw that broke the camel's back, but there was some sort of revelation for you about who you were and what your value was. Like you believed all of a sudden, or someone taught you to see more about yourself than what you realized was there, and it unlocked, like,
yeah.
this
I,
next level attitude for yourself.
and to be honest, I don't take any credit for where I am or my abilities. This is all God given, right? We're
Amen.
all individuals. So I'll tell you this: as I was beginning to, me and my wife got married in 2020. We went to high school together. I'm here in Fargo, North Dakota now. This was the last place I was able to move with that company.
Okay.
Um, and 2020 hit, and like a lot of people, it kind of shook them up. And for me, it was like, dude, I'm feeling, I wasn't feeling well, and that pretty much broke me to the point where I had to rely on God more than I ever have in my
When you
life.
say you weren't feeling well, you mean like
Feeling
professionally,
well
emotionally?
emotionally.
Okay.
Emotionally wasn't feeling well. I was on social media all the time.
Uh-huh.
I was you could get so triggered by certain things on social.
Oh,
I was just allowing my emotions and my feelings to be played with by outside sources that weren't me.
okay.
So with that, I was aware enough to know that this wasn't right. One. So then I started to curate, like, to strengthen my relationship with God, be more in the scripture, be more present, be more grateful. To be honest, I don't have bad days. There are no bad days. Um, it is so once I started to, and I wouldn't say adopt it. Once I started to make that the way I was living, change my perspective, just a paradigm shift in life. I started just appreciating being outside, the ability to do stuff for myself, just being grateful for everything. Right. So once I started doing that, the growth mindset started. That was able to happen naturally once I shifted out of this place of where I was just emotionally immature, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
allowing myself to be played on by different headlines. These people saying this, these people not saying this. How do I feel about this? How do I feel about that? Rather than just being present, controlling what I can control, right? And
Mm-hmm.
making sure I rely on my source. So once I started doing that, that gave me, you mentioned this evolution or broke the camel's back. That gave opened the door for all of these endless possibilities now. Around that
Mm.
same time, I started to realize, oh, other people are doing the stuff that I want to do at an extremely high level, at an extremely high network, at an extremely importance value, right? So I was able to actually see that and recognize it for what it is. Oh, if that person could do it, then I know I could do it.
Yeah.
And then you hear people all the time say, tell your story. And me, ironically, this same story I'm telling you, and I went into more details of my upbringing in my interview, but that's why my first company hired me. It was because of the story I had. Like I said, I thought
Ooh.
I bombed it. But the
Yes.
individual I was allowed them to look past my lack of technical expertise and bring me on because of the person I was. And then I was able to gain whatever technical knowledge and understanding I needed to. So it's not by chance, uh, but it did go to another level of self confidence, self-awareness. And yeah, I don't
Like his
take credit for it.
boldness too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like when you went into your interviews, it was like now you had a different, like you said, a paradigm shift in how you
Yeah,
interviewed, even, right? Like it was
yeah.
reflective of that
My
change.
moxie is different. And I've done interviews, and I do interviews just to make sure that I'm still understanding what businesses are asking for.
Hmm.
I love my job. I have the second best job ever. So I have the first best job ever, and I have the second best job ever with a great team. But I still talk to people and see what they're looking for. And people tell me all the time, man, I love your moxie. Like you just, but like I said, I'm not relying on myself. How I show
Sure.
up
Yeah.
is by the grace of God. Like that,
Amen.
I'm just a human. So if it's something you like about me, I can't take credit for that because I didn't create myself.
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah,
You're not boasting. It's not you not boasting in yourself. I
no,
totally get it.
absolutely not. Absolutely
Let me
not.
let me share this comment
Go
real
ahead.
quick, just because I want to encourage you. Jason Smith, thanks for watching. He says, "Man, I really appreciate this dialogue. And before this finishes, thank you for being open, Mr. Whitaker, and thank you for hosting, Mr. Pina. Very grateful for this today, Jason. I'm glad you are encouraged by this.
Absolutely, man.
I am too.
You're welcome. You're
Um,
welcome.
Yanusa is saying love these." So I think he's loving the comment, the talk, the information. I want
Yeah,
to. So I think I am compelled hugely to make sure, audience, that you're, as you're listening to this, as learners who are wanting to get into the field, there is a very valuable piece that Daniel has just shared with us, and I want you to make sure you're picking up on this. Is that I'm not saying anything about anything else right now. I am just saying I want to focus on Daniel's response, just not his response, but his sharing just now about that boldness, about that, like his elevation and his conviction on, I have something. I am valuable. I can do this. I am worth it. Like I feel like, without saying all those things, like those are the things he's saying. And I'm only paraphrasing because I can't recall your words
absolutely.
exactly, Daniel.
No,
But
that's it. That's
and
it.
and and,
Just
and you can
a
do
self
that.
belief. Yeah,
Yes. And you got,
and everybody
so,
can do that.
and that
Everybody
doesn't
can do that.
cost. And you don't need to go buy a certification for that,
No,
but I do believe, Daniel, it does take us that mindset to shift on ourselves. And sometimes it's hard, right? We're in an environment sometimes, whatever that environment, not saying it's toxic or bad, but sometimes we get stuck in these environments, these atmospheres where they help us stay stagnant, right?
absolutely,
And it's not a
absolutely,
bad thing. It's just, if we don't recognize that, then we think that in that field that we're in, that we were always destined, or that we can't get past it, right? Like it helps. I'll say that it helps
absolutely,
keep us there. And so that's
absolutely.
why it's so important, everyone. It's so important to in order to invest in yourself, to bring out that boldness, that strength, to, that inner, professional warrior, whatever you want to, however way you want to label
Yeah,
that, you have to surround yourself in areas and with people and with things that do that, right? It's not about just being around people that encourage you. For me
sure.
personally, and Daniel, you can add to this in a minute too. For me personally, it's about being around people who I feel excel at things that I want to excel at also. However insurmountable it feels, I want to be surrounded with people that are challenging themselves, challenging others, that aren't just yes men and women, um, that want to continue elevating their skills, whatever skills they are. You don't have to be the best at, cybersecurity, for example, even though I know that's what we're talking about today. But if your job is, man, I want to be the best chocolatier in the world, and I am training, I am watching 1,000 YouTube videos every month, and I am in my kitchen doing stuff, and I am creating something, and I don't get paid for it, but I am really trying to learn a skill and a craft. I think that is the kind of environment, then you're like, I'm surrounding myself with people who are excellent in this field and who are doing it. And that's what I want to do. Like, that's what I want you guys to pull out right now, to think, if you're teetering on that edge of, am I, if there's a question mark at the end of anything you're thinking or asking yourself, answer it with yes, you are, you can, you
Yeah,
totally will. and find the
Yeah.
people that do that too. Daniel, I'm sorry, maybe you
Yeah, a
probably.
couple things on that. You mentioned the environment, right? I think it's snakes. They grow to however big the cage is,
Uh-huh.
and that's they'll regardless if they could grow bigger or not. Get out your own cage. And for myself, being from Houston slash New Orleans, I didn't even know where it was on the map. I didn't know. I couldn't foresee this for myself. Like I just said, I didn't even know people who had jobs made in the high six figures just a couple years ago. Um, it's so much more that's in you. It's so much more that you can pull out of yourself. I'll say this: I kind of live by the mantra of I'm the best, but I'm not better than anyone.
Mm,
And
I like
then
that. I like that.
and then what what's more important, what you attain or who you become. So a lot of times we see people trying to like they want to get in the space for the financial part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, man, you're gonna feel so much better earning that rather than just getting it. Because anytime you get something for nothing, it can't sustain. Just the law of nature, it can't sustain. So even if you get, you pass one certification and somebody hires you making 20 more X, if you aren't the individual who can sustain that position, not only sustain it, but we only hiring you to add value. You have to
You
do
have to
even
actually add
more,
that value.
add value, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
just be a C filler. It won't sustain. So I'm
Good point.
always
Good
like the
point.
journey, the journey, the journey, who you become. That's why I said the certification thing, right? Because we could get caught
Yes.
up on people do whatever to pass the cert, but it's like if you don't really know what's like, if you can't do this stuff in the real world, then you having it does you no good. It just
Mm,
it just attracts. So that's a great example of what's more important, who you become or what you attain. Um, and man, that's been key for me
mm-hmm.
in my personal life because that's all it's about. Like what you attain will naturally come to who you are. What you have is for you already. So as long as I'm the person I need to be, right? I'll have everything and more. At this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you like this: like I don't have this confidence just in my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking myself against anybody and anything. Not because like I said, not because I'm better, but I'm the best. If you could be the
Yes.
best, I could be the best. And there's nothing wrong with us both being the best.
Nothing.
Uh, we're
Nothing.
all in my eyes, we're made by the same being. So we have the same abilities to do what it is that we're all doing. So if it's people doing what you want to do, who have done things that you want to do,
You
oh, it's
can
absolutely possible for you. Like
absolutely.
it's a no-brainer. So
Yeah.
yeah, and you just have to adopt that mindset and get out of your own cage, right?
Yes.
Because ultimately your environment plays a lot into who you become. And I think it's by no coincidence that God really isolated me in small town North Dakota. Could you I don't really know how to put this in words or describe this for people, but imagine it being -30 in the winter in Ellendale, North Dakota, in a town of 1,300 people, and you're the only person who looked like you for hours. You're stuck inside. I'm talking about complete isolation.
I know what you're talking
Um,
about, Daniel.
Complete isolation, and not that I didn't have friends or coworkers that I enjoyed being with. I still got
Sure.
out and did stuff, but
Sure.
overall, I am an anomaly in every space I go into. And I was just able to learn new things from new people that I wouldn't have been able to learn
Mm-hmm.
had I been in my same environment or had I went back home to Houston. I couldn't imagine being in Houston during 2020. I wouldn't be there. We'd be talking about
Mm,
polar opposite individuals. Uh, so and at this point, I would say like the that sacrifice that I made early on just by
mm-hmm.
going to Ellendale, North Dakota, has paid dividends. So now I'm not trying to sacrifice something once I'm already in my comfort. I sacrificed before I got any comfort. I sacrificed before I really had anything to. So it's just like you have to give up something.
Yes. Yes.
Something has to go
Something.
in order for you to to level up and get
Yeah,
to
this
the
whole
next
idea
place.
of something that's easily attainable, like it's like it's like those freaking Facebook posts sometimes where people are like, there was one of my friends, she showed me yesterday, she was all like, there's the Walmart help bag or something like that. And they're like, people are ready to be blessed. Just put your name in the comments and we will reach out to you with $1,000 gift certificate or some craziness like that.
It's
Like,
it's it requires work.
yes, there's no
It
shortcuts.
re- no shortcuts. It
You
requires
might be able
work.
to take one, but in my opinion, it's always going to come back at some point,
It won't
and
sustain.
it won't
It won't
sustain. You're right.
sustain.
Let me read some of
It
these
won't
comments over here
sustain.
because people
Go ahead.
are coming in. So James says my current situation, and he put this earlier when we were talking about like needing to break out. You know, like if we're in these
Mm,
atmospheres of places that we
yeah.
need to. He was saying that was his situation right now. So James, you can totally get out of here. Jason says the only thing it costs is letting go of your past thoughts and feelings about yourself. The lies that you've told yourself and others have impressed upon you. This too shall pass. Coupled with massive amounts of accountability can take us far. I'm coming out of a funk and remembering who I am. We have to challenge ourselves, like Jaime just said. Yes, Jason. Yes, yes. Um,
Absolutely.
Janae says, yes, the journey is the best part. A Jeremy Camp song says, I love Jeremy Camp songs, says, in the pressing and waiting, you're changing me. Uh, in the pressing and waiting, you're changing me. So enjoy the
Yeah.
pressing
Enjoy
and
that.
waiting.
Yeah.
James says, again, facts, you have to sacrifice. Now, Alan, I'm going to ask your question. We haven't gotten that far yet in the interview, Daniel, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it up. So,
Sure.
Alan, he's a good buddy of mine. So, I'm curious about your day to day as a security analyst, and what are some
Sure.
of the harder aspects, and what are some of the easier ones. But before you answer that, let's wrap up this section of the conversation that I felt was
Sure.
very very nice. So, you know, I took us on a little journey with the whole like the boldness, the believing in yourself. You said selling yourself, but not really. But I think
Just
people can
being yourself confidently. That's it.
confidently.
Just
There you go.
being yourself confidently.
I like that. Yes, being
Um,
yourself confidently. So then you said next, and you kind of touched on it a minute ago, earlier in the conversation, though we were talking about so certifications next, right? And you were saying, I like how you were phrasing that. It's like a certification is going to get you there. It can help get you there. It will it sustain you. That's
it depends on how who you became or what you attained,
yeah.
right?
Did you do it
If
for
you
yeah? Did you do it just so you can attain it, or did you do it and you continued with it and it's become a part of who
exactly.
you are? That makes me think. Then, so my wife, she has her PhD in marriage and family therapy, right? And in early on in our marriage, I've been married for 18 years now. This upcoming
Nice.
year will be 19. I tell
Nice.
her, we used to talk, and I used to be like, babe, what was like? How did you know you wanted to be a counselor? Okay, because she's a therapist, right? Like, how did you know you want to do that? And I remember one of her answer to me years ago. She was like, I was very grateful that I wasn't out looking for a job or a title.
Mm.
She was like, there happened to be work in something I already loved doing. And so it was easy just to be like, oh, well, that's what I am now. So it wasn't this transition for her. It was like, I already want to help people like this. There's a
Yeah,
job out there where I can get paid to do that. Well, then yes. And so
absolutely.
I love that heart. So anyway, with that said, okay, you certifications was the last piece of conversation earlier. You're saying that's where your job took you on the journey to that. You next were what happens
Next,
next?
so start entertaining other businesses to for my next role. I end up at Carnival. It was a job I wasn't going to take due to like I said, at this point, I realized people with my type of experience and background make a certain type of money, a
Mm-hmm.
certain type of salary. And the Carnival one was on the lower end compared to the higher end. So I really wasn't going to entertain it. But after my first interview with my now um, senior director, I was like, "Oh, I'll work for this lady at any pay." Um, it was amazing, man.
Mm.
An amazing natural conversation, and I've grown so much professionally from working under her, and having the opportunity to add value, and be interfacing with VPs and senior directors within a global corporation like Carnival, doing the work that we do. Yeah, it's the best second job I could have. I get to do all things cybersecurity without having to be a technical whiz. It's the perfect role for me. Um, and I can only credit that to God. I can't take credit for the way it happened, because she had interviewed a bunch of people. The job had been open for 8 months, I think,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Wow.
and they couldn't find the right person for it. And here I come. And after that same interview, when I said, "Oh, I'll work for her," she simultaneously was like, "Okay, let me get you interview with the rest of the people so we could go ahead and get, like, we want you just." It was an equal interest uh, from my side and their side. And so yeah, I joined Carnival. I've been with them a year now, on the governance and security team. Uh, my title is security analyst, but like I said, I do all things security. A lot of the things, like, I don't do much from a security operation perspective.
Okay.
I do have access and visibility into Splunk, SentinelOne, Qualys, those type tools.
Sure.
Um, but I'm not responsible for managing them per se. I'm not on like the security engineering team, and I'm not on the actioning team that gets an alert and then respond to it. So, but I am aware of
What's going on?
what's going on in our environment.
Yeah.
Um, I get to work on policies. I get to work on vulnerability management. That's kind of like
That's
one
your
of the
jam.
things I get to own. Yeah, I get to own the vulnerability management for our group. So with that, um, leading like I said, I don't do anything technical. I just pretty much make sure the directors and leads are overseeing the remediation of their vulnerabilities and patches in their corresponding
And I
systems and applications.
and so in the past, in previous episodes, Daniel, I've spoken about this. I've not been on the side where I have ever um like I told you how heavy in the PCI side of the content here that we do. And I've never been I've never been on the side of auditing a company, right?
Sure,
But I have been on the side of remediating.
sure,
And I've been
yeah,
on the other side of the table where we were given the reports to go clean these up, basically, right?
sure,
I don't ever
sure.
want to go back there. I don't plan to go back there. Okay, let me just say that much. So, but
I,
that sort of sounds like the people you're not doing that, but the people on the like the analyst side or the operation side,
the
they're the ones that
operations
are
side,
going out
yeah.
and doing the
So
same
the
those
support
remediations.
teams, the infrastructure teams, they kind of handle the operation teams handle the remediation of certain things. With that though, I do get to interface with auditors of the big four. We're a Fortune 500 company, so we have SOC compliance that we have to be aligned with. Um, so I'm always within our group. We're like the auditors for the auditors.
Hmm.
My senior director is she speaks for the controls in our group. So we make sure our group are implementing different controls. We're verifying those controls, and then it comes from one individual as to what we're doing. We're uniform. It's an amazing process that's been built and developed um, under great leadership, obviously. And so um, access reviews, uh, hardening, um, firewall rules, reviewing those type of things. I'm a part of a bunch of different projects. I never worked in a environment that had its own development resources. So now we're curating and developing new security tools and applications for us to better govern our environment. So
Yeah.
that's like something new to me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, hey, let's plan how we want this function to work, and then let's work with the development team to then bring it into fruition. Um,
What you're talking about a lot in there you're saying a lot of proprietary software that your company
yeah,
is building
yeah,
up for itself instead of having to
that's
use
for itself
these
instead of
third
having,
party
yeah,
vendors
exactly.
or off the shelf box of products that are there, right? So
Yeah,
they're developing software that's specifically engineered for
just for
their
our business unit. Yeah.
yes, yes.
So that's been cool. I've been able to present projects and requests. Man, if you would have told me, hey, take this job in Ellendale, and in 7 years, 6 years, you'll be at Carnival doing all of this stuff, cybersecurity, like everything cybersecurity. I get to be a part of the discussions, um, while also interacting with some high level, some high ups in the company. So it's super cool, man. And I can only give glory to God for that. Like, this is a gift. I work from home. I get to see my daughter every day. She sees both her parents in the house. Like, it's super surreal, and that's why I only could give God the glory for this, because based on statistics, this isn't the lifestyle I was supposed to have at the young age of 29. My wife doesn't work. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's
I
crazy.
hear you,
So
Daniel. I hear
yeah,
you. Like
it's
I
it's
get
it's
it, man.
and I can yeah, that I can only credit it to the faith, and then just that believing in myself, knowing where my faith was, would allow me to be able to
Yeah.
um speak on myself as boldly and confidently as I do. Um, but yeah, so now at Carnival, so a bunch of different projects we work on. We get to do even projects that aren't security specific, right? We have
Hmm.
a piece in, hey, how are we going to do the different controls that we're responsible for, um, making sure security is considered at each piece of a project or each phase of a project. We're considering
Yep.
that. I get to yeah, we do all kind of reviews, access reviews, password reviews, database policy reviews. It's been a blessing, man. And I work with an awesome team. I think that's it. More than anything, the team I get to work with uh, have been together for quite a while, like the nucleus of the team.
Yeah.
So anybody who joins naturally just feels that warmth, of the team. And so yeah, it's absolutely a blessing. I have the best second job in the world. I have the best boss that I could ask for. So um, I wouldn't by title. I don't know if I'm a security analyst by title, right? Because like I said, I'm not looking at alerts all day, or looking at logs all day. And I guess and
Hmm.
that's why I don't get caught up in the title thing, right? Because really I do GRC more than anything.
Right.
Um, so and a lot of times people get caught up in the title. What back to what you attain or who you become. Uh, I don't care what the title is. This is the work I'm doing. This is
Right.
the development I get to have in my professional
So
career.
this makes me think of two things, right? So earlier, what you were saying, like I feel like this is something that a lot of us can relate with, right? Because when you're talking about not seeing, not you didn't say it like this, but kind of not seeing yourself where you're at back in the past, right? Like feeling like you shouldn't be here. And there's a term for this, right? It's called imposter syndrome,
Yeah,
right? And it's very heavy within our communities, right?
yeah,
We have a lot of community where we're in situations where we're like, man, like, and I can feel that, right? I can tell you that, you know, thinking about any amount of money I've made over a certain amount, I can think the same thing. I was like, man, my single mother who raised three boys on her own did not make more
yeah.
than this
No,
amount.
absolutely,
And so it's
absolutely.
like, wow. And then when, and and to know I'm like you, I'm like, I'm not done. Like I'm right here, but
It's
I'm not
super
done.
early. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is super early.
Yeah.
This is
I'm
super
still aiming
early.
higher. I'm still aiming bigger. I'm still aiming whatever. My goal is to really well, anyway, I have goals and they are huge because I want them to be
Absolutely.
that huge, you know. Um, but yeah, and I feel like so many of us who are watching, and so many of us who will watch later on, if you're watching this in the replay, you feel like this might be. You feel like, am I really like? Are these unattainable dreams? Are these are these figures and jobs that I'm not supposed to have, or traditionally don't have. And I talk a lot with the people. I'm like, I talk a lot in the Latin communities where I'm like, yeah, ladies, for example, it's hard to see ladies in IT jobs. There's just not a lot of them, right? And so when you see
But
an
they're
IT
amazing.
lady, huh?
They're really good at in the space. Ironically, like you don't see a lot of women, but they're. I work with a lot of women. My leadership is women, and they're rocking it. So
They are rocking it.
yeah,
It's nothing against them.
the irony that it's not a lot of them is like,
It's
man,
weird,
only if you knew how capable and how good at this you'd actually be if you just
right?
right back to that belief thing, man. I would say I probably had imposter syndrome when I first got on, like my first job. One, because I felt like I didn't do well in the interview, and then two, as I got on, I felt like I knew I didn't know enough. So him telling me that wasn't surprising. It was the fact that he kind of like put me on blast,
Yeah,
and it was at that time it was like a strike to my ego. However, I used that as fuel to better myself.
yeah, you did.
So yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I'm taking great advice. He is right. Let me do better. It's like, oh, he gonna call me out in front of the group, thinking
Yeah,
I can't do this. Right. Very immature thought process. However, it worked out in my favor.
yeah,
Once I definitely don't have imposter syndrome now. Um, I don't know how I can, to be quite honest, because I know what I'm relying on. Uh, I'm not relying on me. So imposter syndrome is out the door. It's like that's why I wasn't afraid to take the opportunities. I felt like it's always God always been in my life. He's been protecting me from certain things all this time,
yeah,
just so I could give him the glory on platforms like this now. Um, and had that protection not been, had I not realized that, or had I not made the decisions I made, then I wouldn't be here. But he's always made sure I was in the right position. And so yeah, now there, what's imposter syndrome? We're both humans. I know what I can bring to the table, and that's not to say you're super confident in yourself, right? Like
right.
that's something you have to build on. That's something you have to gain. So how do you gain confidence in yourself? Show up.
Show
Show up
up.
when you do it. Do what you say you're gonna do as an individual, right? Don't
Hmm.
lie to yourself and say, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then you halfway do it, or you quit and give up when you don't wanna, when it don't feel good. No, like one, you got to give up something.
Yeah.
Like that
If
obedience,
there's
that
not that
discipline.
quick
Yeah, it's not.
reward,
Yeah, don't like put the delay gratification back to who you become or what you attain again. Like don't worry about the stuff, the job, the certifications, the salary you're gonna get, the amount of impact or influence you have. Let me just put my head down and be who I'm supposed to be. Just show up every day in all things. Did you get it? Bless you. You
sneezing the mic and everyone,
no, you're
you
right.
know.
Bless you, bless
Sorry
you.
about that.
That stuff that stuff can cloud your mind, and especially a lot of times that imposter syndrome comes from us looking at other individuals, right?
Right.
It's not
And,
even
and it's
something
and it's a
that's just
natural thing to
self.
do, though,
Yeah.
Daniel. It's
um
natural to look at others and be like, either I want, or why don't I, or
why don't
something,
I?
right?
Or maybe me and this person have the same title, but they have X amount of certifications and years of experience, and I feel like I'm not as good enough, or I'm not uh, equals to them. Well, one, none of us are equals. We're all the best.
Right.
Like we're all the best. It's no way to measure that if we're all the best. It's just about how well do you show it? How well do you show up?
How well
So
do
yeah,
you
it's
show it?
it's a it's a
Yes.
it's a way to alleviate that imposter syndrome. And honestly, I think it just comes from being your best self day in and day out. And then as over time, right, you build a habit of knowing, oh, I know who I am. Because that's what imposter syndrome is, almost like you don't really know who you are
Right.
to step out
Hmm.
in front or be in this
You can't
space. Or
believe, you can't
yeah,
accept
exactly.
that
Um,
possibility, or even the reality. Like, even when you
the
do attain it,
reality.
you
Yeah,
don't accept it, because you're like, this
yeah.
shouldn't be, this shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it
And it's
doesn't feel
dangerous
right.
for us to feel that way. I mean,
It is.
feel
It's
it, but
it's
get over it. It's like,
it's a because what you do is put yourself in a bind, right? You're limiting
Yes.
yourself
You
before,
give
like,
yourself almost like this net so that when you
yeah,
fail, you're okay because you're like, I
exactly.
was destined to fail. And that's all. It's like, no, you fell,
It,
but yeah, you just get up, take some time, dust
absolutely,
yourself off, get back up and hit that grind
absolutely.
again. And
And then
sometimes some of us, we hit that ground 4, 5, 6,
yeah,
7 times more. And the
yeah,
thing is are you continuing to get up, or does your pity party keep lasting longer and longer?
and compound and compound,
Yes,
and
and
then
then
before
there's
you know it,
more, and it's
it you don't get over it, right? Yeah, that's it. Like showing up for yourself, showing up in your household, your kids. Like you want the confidence to step out in front of strangers. Show up in front of those who know you best, like
mm,
who've seen you at your lowest.
right.
Like show like you can do it. You absolutely can do it. It's nothing stopping you from becoming who you want to become, but you. The things you want to attain, they're already out there for you. Just become the person you need to become. Back to the certification example. If I study the cert to be the best, if I study security plus to be the best security analyst, I'll definitely pass the test. But if I study to pass the test, I'll be a crap security analyst just because I only studied so I could pass. I didn't study so I could be the best security analyst. Who you
Mm,
become and who you attain. Both of them have the cert, but one of them is a security analyst and hold the cert, while the other just has the cert, and they won't be able to sustain. So
yes.
if you focus on that, who I become, right, and show up every day for yourself. Um, Show up every day for yourself. Figure out a way to challenge yourself, and you'll start to alleviate some of that imposter syndrome, lack
By
of
the way, everyone,
confidence.
Daniel has a dog in the room with
Oh
him,
yeah,
so I know
yeah,
you
yeah,
hear
yeah,
the
yeah.
noises.
Sorry,
It's not Daniel kind of
sorry about that. Yeah, he
No, no, no,
started
no, no. There's nothing to
wiggling
be
around.
sorry
I'm
about. We
glad you
could
called
just
that
hear
out.
these noises, and I
Yeah,
was like, I don't even want to think that Daniel's making strange noises with his feet or whatever. So,
sure, sure, yeah.
um,
Um,
let me ask you this real quick. So, I feel like you have spoken so much about. I'm going to lump it all into just saying like attitude, not bad attitude, but I feel like you've spoken really heavily about attitude, and you haven't really spoken a lot about like your certifications and
yeah,
schooling
security
as
stuff.
much.
Yeah, no.
For people who are the learners watching and people who are
Hmm.
looking to get into this field, they may think, they may wonder, you are bashing
No,
certificates almost.
no.
What would you say to them, since you've been talking so much about a lot of the attitude and not as much about the certificates? What is that?
Well, I'll start one. Certificates are just a learning tool. I'm back in school. I'm pursuing my master's degree,
Okay.
so I'm all for formal education and continuous learning. I'm only getting my degree because I'm studying to be a better professional. And so, thank you. And so, my efforts into becoming a better professional will allow me to attain a degree, right? It's not like I'm pursuing a degree just to have one and then, say I have it. Um, so I don't think it's a like your attitude drives everything, and it's really the one of the few things that you can control with all your ability.
Hmm.
I mean, I failed the security plus 3 times before I passed it. Like let's just talk about failures, right? Failed it
Hmm.
3 times before I passed it. I failed Microsoft certifications. Um, yeah, I failed certs. I failed in college. I got kicked off the team for a while. Um, you talk about failures. I've let people down in my life. So the cert thing, I don't get hung up on that. And if you're a learner, right, then you should just be learning who you become or what you attain. If
Hmm.
I'm a learner, that's who I am. What I attain is these credentials as I continue to learn. It won't matter, like it's no it to me at least it doesn't I wouldn't put the thing you get at the end, the cert, the degree, I wouldn't put that on the pedestal. It doesn't
Mm.
hold. It doesn't hold any, and I'm not saying what you accomplishing that doesn't mean anything. What I'm saying
Right.
is just because you have it doesn't give you uh it doesn't make opportunities for you. You make opportunities for you. It's people who have CISO uh, positions with no degrees and no certifications.
Mm.
So if for me to say, well, you need a certification and harp on that, I'll be absolutely wrong because here there are a number of individuals who don't have degrees or certification who are in high level information security professions. We see it all the time. So I'm
Yes.
not I'm not knocking certs. I think certs are cool. For myself, I
Right.
would love to attain the CISSP. I would love to attain the CISA, um, and the governance enterprise cert by ISACA. Just because the position I'm in and knowing if I learn the content of those certifications,
Hmm.
I'll be a better professional. I already have the best job. I don't need a certification. I already have the best job. I don't need a degree, right? So I think if you're trying to get into this space, one, work on becoming the best you can be, and
Mm.
whatever certifications you should attain, you'll attain them as you're on that path. Nobody's going to hire you because you have 100 certifications. It just won't happen. You see it all the time. People have
Yes.
X amount of certifications and they can't get a job. To me, that's like, okay, certifications can't be the end all be all. There has to be
Hmm.
something else that gets people hired or that attracts people to other people, right? And it's simply based on how well you can communicate. Uh, the people who make the most money in the world usually have some type of communication. They're telling something to other people.
That's why
You're
salesmen make so much money. That's
entertainer.
my
Yeah,
belief.
it's about how well you can communicate, especially in this space. So being able to communicate about yourself, how valuable you can be to an organization, what you can bring to them, um, how you can contribute. If you can communicate that at a very effective level, right,
Hmm. Hmm.
then it doesn't matter how many certs you have. I got this job at Carnival. All my certs except AWS were expired.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't
And
even think
AWS
I
wasn't
don't
even really one of the hitter ones for this
wasn't even
for this.
necessary.
Yeah.
What I don't think any of them were. I couldn't tell you if they looked at the certs or not. To be honest, I don't think it was a selling point. I don't think the fact that I had a degree was a selling point. It may have been an ask on the job posting, but I
Yeah.
didn't apply to the job until I got the job. So I wasn't even deterred by the posting itself. Um,
Yes.
which a lot of times that may be the driver of, oh, I need to have certifications because this is what the job asking for. That's just a filler. That's just a formality. The people hire you, not the job posting. So if you
Yes.
can convince that person on the other line or the person you're faced on the video call with that you're the best person for the job, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter what credentials you have because, like I've said, we've seen people get jobs without specific credentials. Um,
And that's a great point, Daniel. Like I've been sharing with some close friends and speaking with previous people here, one of the things that I'm so one of my secrets I'm revealing right now. I am a little antsy to get into an interview, whatever the job posting is, because I want to test out kind of what you're talking about. And this is from lots of research and speaking to a lot of people in the industry, is that a lot of the job descriptions in the cybersecurity field, they don't really encapsulate the work. It is a very cookie cutter scenario. What ends up happening is the hiring manager is reaching out to HR and is like, "Hey, I need a cybersecurity analyst," and HR is like, "Okay, tell me what you want." They go out to previous job descriptions for
don't they all look
positions.
the same? We all
Yes.
want the person with X amount of certs, with a
Oh
degree,
my gosh.
8
Right.
years
And that's
plus. Like, I mean, if I had my way too, that would be the person I would want. Somebody who had X amount of years of experience, certs, degrees, like that. That's kind of that goes to show that they finished something. But once you get them in front of you, it's up in the air.
Sorry, it never fails, Daniel. One time, at least during every airing, I have to flake out because of internet problems. Okay, that's it's
No,
just the
that's
nature
okay.
of the business, guys. All right.
That's okay.
Um, yeah, so it's just cookie cutter. There's these things, and they always ask for these exorbitant things, and then put the most minimum amount of salary cap on there, and so it makes it feel like, yeah, I'm not going for that. That's insane.
No.
But I believe, and this is just my belief and my opinion, and this is, I'm going to test it out one day. I'm going to go find a job and get an interview with a company that I want to be work for. I plan on full heartedly flipping the script in that interview and applying or have them interview me for a job posting that doesn't exist.
Mm.
I don't know how that's going to go, but from a lot of the conversations I've been in, the job descriptions for jobs out there are not accurate. They don't even
Yeah,
know
they're
what
not
they
always
want a
conducive.
lot of times.
Yeah, and
They
that's why you see such the generic approach. If you can get someone who has 8 years of experience, who has this range of certifications, a degree, now you're getting someone with a vast amount of knowledge that you can probably put in any spot, right? And they do well. That's that's why. So they don't know specifically what they want. And that's why you as an individual have to be able to show them the value that you bring. I myself, I'm definitely, I feel like I'm the cookie cutter. I have 6 years of experience. I have a degree. I'm going to have a postgraduate degree. I've had and attained certifications, right?
Yep.
But if I couldn't speak to this, at one point in time, I couldn't speak to this and I still had that stuff. So I didn't have this confidence, and I wasn't the individual I am today that would be able to provide the value that I provide and be able
Yeah.
to articulate and translate the technical jargon to the business side of things and make it make sense for the organization. So
Right.
yeah,
And so
just
there
because
are
you
pieces
have that,
that you
yeah,
need to have. There are
yeah.
definitely pieces you need to have. I don't
And I
I
don't know if you
think
need to have them. I because I'm one of those people. I think you can lab your way to X amount of years of experience,
yes, completely
guaranteed.
agree. Yes.
Guaranteed. And if you can document that, I feel like that shows that's way more weight in my eyes. If I'm a hiring manager and somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, I have a blog post with X amount of blogs of all the projects I've done. I don't have any certifications, no degrees, compared to the person with just a job, regardless of the work. If the work is the same, I'm taking the person who initiated the work themselves rather than the person who got paid for it.
Mhm.
Me personally. Um,
Which let me just a tangent real fast on that. Daniel was speaking with a recruiter recently, everyone, and I definitely want to share. If you have been on the fence about like creating a web page or having a GitHub with some of your projects that you've worked on, and I'm learning they don't even have to be technical projects. They can be just like security projects, compliance projects, just projects in general. If you can start listing those out in a sorry, put the stuff out there, okay? So let's just skip over the issues. Like put that stuff out there. Recruiters, hiring people, they do what Daniel's saying is seems to be. I've never done it. I will start doing it, but it does seem to add some credence to your um,
Work
non-technical
related.
work.
Just your
Sometimes certificate.
non-related, yeah, your non-work related. One, it shows a couple things, right? It shows creativity because you're identifying projects rather than taking uh, orders or direct from your leadership in your company, right? So the stuff I do at work is the stuff that my directors and leadership tells me I should be doing.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're doing this on your own, you figured out what you probably need to work on or what you're good at. You you created a lab to do it. That's a skill set in itself. that has nothing to do with security, particularly depending on the role. You documented it, so now you show you have effective communication skills. You can capture what it is that you've done and present that in a way that's digestible to an audience. Because you don't want to just document to say document. You want people to engage with whatever it is that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you post it on platforms like LinkedIn, or if you get into the cybersecurity space on Twitter, what you'll begin to notice is you'll start encountering the decision makers, the security professionals that are trying to be interacting with your content, and then you skip the hiring process. You skip that part, and then they're like, "Oh, I know someone," without knowing your credentials or all the extra stuff. They just know you based off the work that you've been putting out, off the labs that you've been doing on
Such a
your
good
own.
point. So
Um,
Daniel, I feel like that's what's happening to me right now. Like I know I just started the cybersecurity channel fairly recently within the last 3 months, right?
that's it.
But
No,
I
you're
have been
absolutely
meeting
online.
all kinds of people, man. Like I just spoke with this guy. He owns a company in the UK. He's going to come and talk here on the channel soon, and he hires QSAs or potential QSAs.
Mm,
And I was like, I didn't know that. I thought you did this. And he's like, yeah, we do that too. And I was like, cool. And then in our conversation, he was like, yeah, now I'm what was his title? He's a board member on the PCI Council. And I
nice,
was like, wait, say what?
nice,
He was like,
nice.
yeah, now I'm traveling everywhere and stuff. He goes, I'll be
Yeah,
over there in Chicago here. And I'm like, well, if you do, let me know. I'll drive up to
yeah,
Chicago and say hi. So
yeah.
yes, the
You
networking.
naturally network, because think about it as and you can look at it like I'm in the space. So just from a like so I know what I would respect as someone who's in the space. I really don't admire the so if you let's translate it to like pro sports. I don't care about the kid who's been highly touted, recruited, and doesn't put any work and think he should just get handed stuff. Give me the guy who gonna show up every day and work hard. That's the guy I want to be on the team with. That's the guy I would seek to help. That's the guy I'm gonna try to encourage or
Mhm.
give a boost to. Not the person who thinks one feels entitled because I've attained something, I should get something, right? That's a sense of entitlement because you've got a certification that a bunch of other people have, that you should be the special one to get a job just off of that one effort. I don't think that's it just don't work out that way. And as
Mhm.
someone in the space, like I said, I'm taking the guy or the individual who's labbing, who's finding volunteer work,
Mhm.
uh, who's actually putting their feet on the ground to get good at the work rather than trying to get something that they think is going to get them in the space because it's a lucrative profession. Give me the person who will say, "Oh, I'll take whatever job I get today. I'll do absolutely everything I can to make sure they get to where they want to go," rather than the person who's like, "Well, I'm getting into cybersecurity because I want to make six figures." It's bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. One, because we're cybersecurity only exists because we're protecting people. So if you're only here for the stuff you get, that means once you stop getting it, you're gone. You go home. You
Mm.
go home at 5 o'clock. If you go home at 5 o'clock
How
in
fickle, right?
cybersecurity, yeah, it don't make sense. So when it's personal, right? You want to find individuals who go above and beyond, figuring out ways that they can attain experience, practical knowledge, gain expertise. They're meeting with different individuals. You're well on your way. The fact that you decide to meet with professionals who are in the space just to get their thoughts and their ideas, and then you take what you can. You also present it to an audience, right? So it's somebody who probably watching who was a high level information security professional who's like, man, Jaime's doing something really cool. Soon as he says he's gonna start posting his projects. Let me see if those may align with what we're doing here, and we may just bring him on. Uh, that absolutely could be happening right now, right? Just off the fact that you took an initiative. Call Jaime. Just because you had the initiative to say, hey, I want to do something. Um, and you're not only helping yourself, you're helping other people as well. And that's what you're going to do with your postings and your write-ups. You're going to help other people like yourself. You're going to give them ideas going to give them something to reference for when they're trying to do certain
Mhm.
things. So yeah, if you're trying to get, I wouldn't let that barrier of, oh, you have to have X amount of experience, like just put you in still water where you don't want to, like, okay, well, I got this certification, but everybody's saying I need X amount of experience. Man, believe in yourself. If it's
Yeah.
for you, right? Well, okay, what can I do? I've learned this stuff. Let me see. Let me volunteer at the church that I go to. Let me volunteer at the coffee shop I frequent. They're small. Let me just, hey, can I do a audit on your information security or your computer system? They may have one or two computers. What you'll go in there and do is say, hey, this person password policy isn't set up. This person, you have everybody should have their own password, or just figure out ways um, to contribute, whatever that looks like. And it's endless ways
I
in
agree.
this space that you can contribute. So
I
yeah, I
agree.
tell people all the time, you can lab volunteer work your way to CISO level experience.
Right. I met
Period.
someone recently she was like, I found a mentor who's willing to show me. And she just started learning a specific one of the methodologies. And she was like, isn't this crazy? And I was like, I'll be honest, you're one of the first people I've ever heard who has actually gotten a mentor who will give them an internship and you have a job already. I was like, that's freaking awesome. Way to
Yeah,
go. Heck yeah.
yeah,
And she told me, she was like, I just was going through the list of people on LinkedIn and I was looking for people of certain titles. I was looking for ladies, for women in power, basically. And I was just, hey, can I? Hey, can I? Hey, can I? And she was like, and one, I think it was like her third or fourth one said yes. And she was like, it's not going to be a lot. It's not super whatever. She's like, but she says I can engage in some of the security policies and help those. And I was just like, I am impressed. So I was like,
yeah.
good for you. Good for you.
But think about how simple that was, right? Like she got
Yes.
on LinkedIn and probably had a template or a message of what it is that she was trying to do, and she just sent it to people.
Yep.
And someone's going to help you. Like nobody's going to help you change a tire if you're not already outside the car changing the tire.
Good point.
Like
Good
they're not
point.
going to know to stop to help you change a tire.
Yeah.
At that
Yeah.
point, it just looks like you're in the car.
Yeah.
So get out the car. And
Get
even
out the
if you
car,
don't know how to
folks.
change the tire, right? Yeah, just look
Act
like
like you know
you
what you're
need
doing.
help. Yeah,
Get the
look like
tools
you
out and
get the
just
tools
bubble your
out.
way
Look like
there.
you're ready. Look like you're ready for the help to come, uh, and it's gonna come.
Yeah.
And because the individuals, the professionals in the space are ready. They understand they understand. And this is weird to me that the professionals and the prospect the prospect professionals understand that the job requirement part or the hiring process is skewed. So the
Mm,
people in the space and the people trying to get in the space have the same understanding or the same disagreement on the hiring process and the things that management per se is looking for. So
mm.
those individuals, the people who actually make who are on the information security side, like we want to help people get in the space. Like there's not like there's not any gatekeeping or people trying to say, oh no, you shouldn't get into this. You may have the discussion of, oh, you should get a cert, or oh, you shouldn't get a cert, or oh, like subjective things, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
objective things. And I think it's neither here nor there. If you're putting an effort to get to somewhere, someone's going to help you.
I
Uh,
agree with you,
Reach
Daniel.
out
Like
to
I
people.
agree with you. Like I look at you, for example, you coming on here, and this is your second time sitting down with me. One in a private community, and this one in a public community. And both, for as long as we've been on here already, and last time, like I can say is like yes, and the others that I've met, the people who have been, analysts all the way up to CISOs/VISOs. You know what I mean? And so it's like all these people that I've met that are like you, it's like they're willing to share. And it's like, I feel like that is so important, right? I've met people who are closed off and they want to hoard the information for themselves. And
Yeah.
I'm of the belief it's like, there's enough to go around for all of us. There's no reason to hoard anything. You know what I mean? If you want to, that's your prerogative. But as for me and my house,
Mhm.
we are going to share. I believe I want
Absolutely.
others to succeed. I don't want to be the only one. I can cheer others on in their success. I do not need
And
to hit them down or be, oh, what about me or whatever. No, I want you to get the success that you get, and I want to cheer you on for that. I want to help provide whatever information. I don't know how much this little channel is going to help folks, but if it does, that's the purpose. That's my skill.
absolutely.
That's what God had puts in me to help others. And I'm using the medium that I have, using the skills that He's given me to do exactly what I was born to do. And
That's
absolutely.
that that's it, right? Cybersecurity in itself is a service profession, because you're servicing the people, whether that be your customers or the employees of the organization. You're
Hmm.
serving people. We only protect data because it can harm an individual if something happened to that data.
Right. Right.
Um, that's it. So, of course, I want to help, right? I want to help as many people get into this space, who's done their due diligence and has put in the time, because I know they care about my protection. So they may go work for a company that I frequent or use. I'll know the individual, right, is not just there to collect the check or only working a job because it looks good or it's something that's just cool. They care about the process. They care about
Yes.
the people. They care to serve, and that's why to be honest, so this may be the most open, sharing, free content, uh people doing. It's you can watch something live, you can watch cyber, you can be completely drowned in cybersecurity content that's free online and not ever miss. Like you can be you it's people make it available. It's the most servicing, one of the most servicing professions I've witnessed. I don't even see anything else on LinkedIn. I only see cybersecurity. I don't know about any other
Field
profession,
or
real
no.
estate, finance. You don't see marketing. Like you don't really see none. Like what you see is the cybersecurity content. And the thing is, it's within every sector, within every business.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
necessity for it. So it's not like you have to work for a tech company or a one of the big four. Like it, everybody needs cybersecurity.
They
The
do.
mom and pop shop to the ice cream stand that only has one of the little iPad kiosk checkout things. Everybody
Yep.
has some type of cybersecurity responsibility. Um, so everyone has a need for the skill set and understanding of what that responsibility is. And yeah, it's room for everyone. And
There is.
as long as you're diligent and putting in the time, and then you're able to just articulate, like, be confident being you. No one wants you to change because we all bring something different to the, like, your perspective is necessary. Like, don't change who you are to get into space. Be the best you so the space
Mm,
invites you in.
yes.
Um, yeah,
I like that.
that's it. Like,
I like that.
be the best you so the space invites you in rather than changing to try to fit into the space. And it'll make room for you. I've
Yeah,
I've
well,
seen people I've seen people, no content, no blow up, get the jobs of their dream. They passed the certifications they wanted to pass, but they put in time. They posted content. They posted blog posts. Whether it was stuff they were super knowledgeable in, or it was something they just learned. Hey, this is what I learned today on this, and this. Yeah, it's so cool. And naturally, as people, man, we want to help people who we see are trying, like they're changing their tire.
yes.
Like, let's go help them.
Yeah,
Like
that's how I feel.
we see them outside the car, and if you're in a position to help, you absolutely are going to stop.
Yep. I want to ask one more question and want to start wrapping up here.
Sure,
So earlier, Alan had asked his question, and I wanted to see if you could hit that for him a little bit because I think it was a very good one. He had asked us, "I'm curious about your day to day as a security analyst, and what are some of the harder aspects, and what are some of the easier ones?" And I know you kind of touched on some of that when you talked about what you don't do, and
sure,
some of the things, some of the tasks that are on. But what do you consider, looking at Alan's question, some of the harder
sure.
aspects?
Harder aspects for myself personally, because we do cybersecurity to protect people, but we also do it to improve the business, right? And in business, the bottom line is what matters most. If we're not profitable or making money, then we're not functioning highly as a business. So one of the harder aspects for my own personal self is trying to identify what our security efforts, how does that correlate to the amount of money we're either saving or making the business, right? Rather than just being an expense. How does this, yeah, I'm protecting the business, but me protecting the business does what for the business, right? How much, yeah, what value is that? What,
Hmm.
so understanding those metrics, one of the harder things for me. Another thing is just understanding how to communicate with different people who may not see things the same way you do. So the harder aspects really aren't so much technical per se. It's
Hmm.
all trying to navigate the business. I've worked with people all around the world, Miami, India, the UK, California, Texas, on a daily basis. And it's like I have to communicate I have to persuade them well enough. I have to be fluid in my communication with them so that they understand what it is that I'm saying, the way I wanted them to understand it. And that's just something you get and one being confident in yourself and what you're saying, right? Because I can't expect you to agree or take whatever I'm telling you or take heed to something I'm telling you or find it important if I'm like, I think we should, and I'm kind of not confident in what I'm saying. I'm not really sure in what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Um, so effective communication is also something, and I call it hard because to be frank, it is hard to communicate effectively all the time.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard. Even if you do it well, that doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
So, um, and it's very attainable, but it's just something you have to work at, especially if you're doing something written, right? Certain people like certain things written a specific way. If you're
Hmm.
communicating in an email, you don't want to write too much. You kind of want to space it out so people can read what it is you want to be collaborative. You don't ever want to come off like you're telling
Spaces,
someone to do
spaces, guys,
something.
in your writings. Okay.
Put some like bullet it out. Don't just write one
Yes.
large paragraph. Bullet it out, put space in between the bullets so it's digestible. Uh, that those are some of the things, and to be honest, I would have never learned that at my old company because the environment and the people per se were local to the small town, right? Whereas now I'm communicating with a global footprint rather than people who kind of all grew up in this point in North Dakota.
The small 1,400
Yeah,
acre piece
yeah,
of land kind of thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So my communication skills never had to evolve or stretch enough to where it was like, oh, you probably should be doing this. But gratefully, my director has been very graceful in helping me navigate that. Hey, so and so like things presented like this. If you're doing something like this, you probably want to say it like this. We never want to come off. I'm learning collaborative. Like you never want to come off like you're telling someone what they didn't do what like if you need something from someone, it's always a collaborative. We're trying to work together,
Yeah.
literally, and that's what we're trying to do, right? But it may come off as a specific way. Some of the easier tasks, I would say, um, given my background, I understand a lot of security tools fairly well. So interpreting those, understanding what's happening in those, is fairly straightforward for me. Um, the access reviews are fairly straightforward for me. I know how to get them myself, even
Hmm.
though I don't have to. The team themselves provide the evidence, and then I format that
Nice.
evidence and present it for the review. Um, those are some of the easier things.
Hmm.
I would just enjoying it is something that's easy for me. Just being back to the gratitude thing. I'm grateful just to even have a job. So therefore, it makes all the other stuff like it could be the most stressful day ever, but the fact that I'm working, uh, it ain't that bad.
Yeah.
So that's one of the so right. So if security analyst is your dream job, that should be one of the easiest things as in the day to day if you're a security analyst. It's just being. So yeah, of the tasks themselves, vulnerability management is straightforward for me. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sure.
So at this time, what we're going to do is I'm going to give Daniel the screen so he can kind of just deliver an out uh, um, departing message for us. Okay.
Sure.
And then Daniel, I'm going to put you in our green room in the background while I finish out the show and then say goodnight to everyone else. And then you and I can hang out for a couple minutes and talk. Okay. So
Sure.
with that being said, everyone, here's Daniel.
Yeah. Lasting remarks, I would say just really figure out what it is that you want to do, who it is that you want to be, not just within your profession, but within life in general. If it's whatever it is, whatever that person is that you see yourself 5 years, reverse engineer it and then just start working, showing up every day and getting those easy wins. If I say I'm going to get up at 5, I get up at 5. If I say I'm going to go work out today, I'm going to go work out. If I say I'm going to study, I'm going to study. Um, don't put it off. And then you'll build that confidence to be able to speak to yourself in your journey. You'll be at a place where you trust yourself and you're confident in yourself. So, um, yeah, it's not so much to do like the profession is the profession. I only have this profession because of the individual I am, not the other way around. So yeah, I will leave that with you guys. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate Jaime for bringing me on. It's always a blessing when I get to share my story. You guys could have been anywhere in the world, so the fact that you're here watching this, I'm definitely forever grateful. So you're on mute.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you coming out. It's always a pleasure. I love your openness and your willingness to share. And um, there's some good notes here I'm going to give you before I have you put in the green room real quick. Alan saying, thanks for the information. Yes, communicating will always be the hardest as we all communicate differently. What are some of the security tools that you use for IT auditing and which ones would you suggest?
That's funny because I posted a similar question like that today.
Oh, you
Um,
did?
yeah, Excel. Excel is a big one for us. But I say Excel, but we're also some of those projects that are internal and proprietary cover some of that IT audit and stuff. So we
Hmm.
don't use any third party solutions for GRC or auditing or anything like that. Right now, if I wanted to do an access review, I say, hey team, pull all the users, run this script. We have a script that's approved by the global security team. Hey, run this script. It's going to populate all the users. I'm going to get that in some type of text file or CSV, and then I take that and sort it out per server, and then we do the review that way. Some of our tools is going to allow that process to kind of be automated, right? So
Hmm.
yeah,
Automation's key.
we don't use any third party IT auditing tools. But Excel is something that I've never used Excel as much as I do today. So
Yeah.
that would be the one. Ironically, that's what the individual commented on my post. Excel
Oh,
is
they
the
said
fastest
Excel.
to, yeah.
We're expecting this fancy smancy software,
Yes,
and then everyone's
yeah.
always like Excel. It's our best friend.
Excel.
I feel the same
Excel.
way. I feel the same way. Um, Ivan says, "Thanks for the information, Daniel, and your time. Thank you also,
Absolutely.
Jaime."
Absolutely.
Oh, there me asking him. Oh, that sounds awesome. Since you don't have to go to each server and look at all hardening controls.
Correct.
Okay. All right, awesome. Daniel, again, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. Bless you,
For
man.
sure.
And I hope that you
For
continue
sure.
blessing others through your journey. And just thanks for coming on here tonight. I hope to have you again in
Absolutely.
the
Thank
future.
you.
And
Thank you. I appreciate it.
you have a good night, okay? I'll talk to you here in
Thank
just a
you.
second. Just hang out in the back.
All right.
All right, everyone. I want to say thank you all for coming out and hanging out. I know we're at an hour and 40 minutes broadcasting, but it's so easy when someone like Daniel is like, let me tell you, as a host, when you interview folks and you get people who just like can just communicate, who just, man, I don't have to pull teeth, right? And literally, I could just sit back and I can be like, just autopilot. Daniel's doing fine by himself. You don't need me. You know what I mean? And so it's great when you have guests like that. But it also makes sense where it's like when he's talking about the communication, like he exudes that in his character also. Obvious to me, it's obvious in the way that he carries himself and the way he can, he can project himself, like he knows how to communicate. And whether you say he's the greatest communicator in the world or not, like he knows how to communicate. And I do think there's some validity when he's talking about how that is a necessary skill when you get into this, is being able to communicate well. I agree with him on that 1,000%. So listen up. I have got some great stuff coming up in the works, and I've had some cool stuff coming up, and so it's like great, man. Tonight I have a live show. I do a non-cybersecurity show called the Social and Distancing Show. Going to be talking about spooky stuff over there. It's just for fun, but I said how I was talking to this CEO of a company over in the UK, and happens to be a board member on the PCI Council. I didn't know that when I reached out to him. And it was the same way. It's so funny because when I was talking to him and I was asking him I asked him one question, and then he went on for the next 10 minutes. And I was like, this is great. Like, people are just willing to share. Man, it's great. And so he was so enlightening and helpful. And he had some different thoughts that I'm excited to bring on and let everyone witness and hear as well. But I think it's good stuff. It's good stuff, right? I still have a threat modeling person who's going to be coming on. I've got a cybersecurity insurance specialist coming on soon. Still going to be releasing some other content related around the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And hey, if you're around on LinkedIn, I've got some polls out there. Go check those out, answer them. I'm going to be putting up some more. And if you want to come on and talk about some of the Cybersecurity Awareness Month stuff, let me know, and we'll get on here and give a shot on whatever topic it is that we want to do. But look, I feel like the message tonight from Daniel was be bold, think of yourself stronger than what you feel like you're at. Know that you are valuable. Know that you bring value. Know that your confidence level can be risen to a level where it's just going to make opportunities happen for you. That's what I feel like was the biggest thing, is that be confident. Be confident. I can't remember what the opposite of confidence is, but the word eludes me right now. But whatever that is not your friend. That is your enemy. And so be confident. Go out there. You're getting into this. Stick with it. Stick to it. Continue being uncomfortable and learning. Okay. And then share your success story with us. Let us know what goes on. And then lastly, before I leave, I want to leave off. There was a comment earlier that was put on, and I was like, oh, I can't put that up until the end. And it comes from Alan again. Alan is just trying to hog up all the screen time, all the tech screen time here tonight. But Alan had said, journey around the world virtually, physically, mentally, spiritually, until you find the culture, likes you want in everyday life. There are too many great humans and beings in the world where you can easily fit in anywhere you want. And I think that's such a great message to leave off with right now. So, Alan, thank you for your words. I hope everyone had a great night. Let me know if there's any other new content you want. Otherwise, you guys have a great night.